Hi everyone, in this lesson we'll talk about the fundamentals of light theory. Don't be scared, theory is really important and for this exercise very necessary. Without knowing this, you could apply some convincing shading, but for anyone in the know, the lack of knowledge would be obvious. I'm going to share some really interesting things with you that will be very useful when you're observing or representing any real object. Well, whether that be an object, a landscape, or a living being. So the first thing you need to know is what light is. Light is the physical agent that makes objects visible, an energy that allows us to see the things around us. There are two types of light, natural light sources like the sun, and artificial ones like light bulbs, for example. Throughout history, light has obsessed and fascinated the great masters. I'm sure you've heard of Da Vinci, Caravaggio, or Goya. They all shared an obsession with light, how it behaved on different objects. They practically dedicated their life to studying light and shade. I'm telling you this so you understand the importance of knowing the basic principles of light. I'm not saying you need to reach the level of the masters, but I am saying that to progress, you first need to know the basics like the back of your hand. I'm going to tell you about a curious effect called simultaneous contrast. I'm sure you've seen, maybe in books or online, black and white squares with a grey square in the middle. The square in the middle appears to be a different shade of grey, however, it's actually the same. This is just how our eye perceives it. Our eyes can trick us. The pupils dilate and pick up too much information, making us see too many hues, causing the confusion. So when we're shading, we could apply light to areas of shadow, making them much more intense than they really are. This is the biggest problem you'll find when applying different tones to your designs, but I do have a tip to outsmart your pupils. When you apply light and shade, just squint. You might find it uncomfortable at first because you'll think you're not collecting enough information, you're missing something, but actually the information you are collecting is much more valuable. Believe me, you don't really need more than 10 hues to complete your painting. That might not sound like a lot, but this will add quality to your illustrations. So now you know a few tips that are really important when you're shaping your drawing. So what are the basic principles or laws of light? The first law. Light always comes from a source and it moves in some direction. For example, if our light source is the sun, then the rays are parallel to the object. As the source is so far away, we're incapable of perceiving the angle of those rays. However, if the source is a lamp, we'll see that the light rays have a very clear direction that we can measure. The second law, when light travels through space, it gradually loses luminosity and intensity. In other words, an object that is right next to the light source will be more illuminated than one that is 20 meters away. It's also important to know that the surface the object sits on reflects the light onto it depending on how far away it is, and you can see this effect in this image. We could say that the tonal scale of the objects tells us the position of the object in regards to the light source and to other objects. The third law. When the light reaches a surface, it's blocked and so bounces off, and this is called a reflection. Curiously, the fact that we can see different colours is because of a similar phenomenon. You could research these areas more if you find them interesting. The fourth law. The degree of perpendicularity and obliquity of a plane will influence and vary the amount of light that this reflects. So, the more perpendicular the plane is in regards to the light source, the more reflection. And if you think about it, it makes sense, as the light reaches the surface directly and bounces off straight away. These are the basic principles of light. If this is the first time you've heard of them and you feel a bit confused, don't worry. We'll continue exploring this theory in the next lesson when we paint our sphere. To finish, let's see some simple examples of how light works on different geometric bodies and also depending on the direction of the light source. As you can see, if our source is at 90 degrees from our object, the shadow will be right in the middle of the object like this. Depending on the orientation, you can see how the range of light can vary considerably. See how the light also works differently depending on the shape of the object. So you pretty much have all the basic knowledge about light theory. We've learnt that our eyes can play tricks on us, but we can outsmart them by squinting when we paint. We also know that we don't need more than 10 hues to shade a drawing, and what are the basic principles of light. With all this, let's move on to the next lesson and we'll put it into practice by painting a sphere. I'll see you there.